the smallest project. And being able to go down to a 2-acre farm and enable that project to issue credits. And I think that's a really important point as we're talking at a big conference like COP, where we're thinking about country levels, nationally determined contributions, but we always have to think about how technology can help you get to the person, how this process doesn't become cumbersome. And so I want to hand it over to Bhakti to introduce this great panel and walk towards some of those tech-enabled outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. No pressure. It's the last panel of the day. We'll try and keep energy high. So yes, as was mentioned, I'm from Dovu. I'm the chief of staff there, which means I look after product and partnerships and everything else. This panel is packed with insights across the board. So we have Geralma, who is an advisor to the government of Mongolia on climate and tech. So is here working hard in negotiations. We're glad you could be here today. We have Archit from Earthhood, which is one of the biggest VVBs in the space, doing really interesting things with digitalization. And we have Nitin from MMCM. MMCM and Dovu do some work together. And Nitin is here representing the project developer side of things. So I'm going to ask all of you just to delve into that a little bit more. Tell us about yourself and your role and how you see tech leapfrogging opportunities in the VCM.
Hi, everybody. As introduced, my name is Geralma, and I wear many different hats, but today I'm representing the Mongolian government, and I advise to newly formed Ministry of Environment and Climate Tech and Climate Change, and I advise mostly on the climate tech and digital innovation strategies to our ministry. And the reason why this role was created was, you know, Mongolia, I don't know how many of you have been there, but we are one of the major, you know, supplier of the coal and fossil fuels in the world. And as things are moving forward, we realized this is not the sustainable way. How do we move out of it, flip and diversify our asset classes or, you know, the economic contributions, not just fossil fuel based, and mining and other industries are the main, but it's time for us to consider create different level of national assets, which is a bioengineered carbon credits. Because earlier, when I was asking questions at the Vera CEO, we have vast amount of land. Majority of it is not many people are living there. We only have 3.5 million people on 1.6 million square kilometer land. And one stakeholder, government, and 80% of it is turning a desertification. So it's a huge problem. Air pollution is there. We don't have much forest mass. Our soil is being degraded. So what do we do about it? Meanwhile, we want to switch from fossil fuel or mining to more sustainable industries. So all these questions kind of come up, and we're behind, and we know that. And many countries already developed the mechanisms and how they're going to bundle it, how they're going to measure it, what kind of standard they're going to use it. They already hit the markets. And as of today, maybe there is 1 or 2 projects that's, you know, actually verified on Vera or Gold from the entire nation. So we understand we're behind, but when we try to do the things, like being behind sometimes comes handy because you can see like what other countries are doing and, you know, learn from their mistakes and what's working, what's not working, right? And also, meanwhile, we are figuring out things. There are technological solutions, like Wes was pointing out. All the solutions, like the, you know, parts compartments come up, then we can see like, oh, instead of like going through the traditional route, let's just use technology and skip certain steps, and it will be cheaper and easier, more efficient for us. So that is where we are, I believe, when it comes to leapfrogging. And we like doing leapfrogging when it comes to any technology from Mongolia. I think that's like our national identity. We just like sit and observe and jump. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Archit?
Hi guys, pleasure to meet you all. Thank you.
Switch your mic on.
Hello again. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Bhakti. And I'm Archit. I represent Earthhood. We are the world's leading validation verification body and also one of the most criticized, if not the most criticized entity across the value chain of the carbon credit projects. So we essentially take data from the project developers, audit them, assess them, come back with the findings, and then make the submissions to the registries and the standards. And then we get questions from all over the place as to how did you audit it. So tough job, but not really. We are trying to make it easier and simpler by implementing a lot of technology into the workflow management tools that we have, so that the email exchanges with the attachments can go away, and there could be a proper tracking of the process that has been followed with proper timestamps and with proper transparency that we would like to bring to the world. So happy to work with Wes and his team on the Guardian framework on various types of projects. We're working on ATEX, Cookstove project, and also ABC mangroves in Senegal by Alcott. So we're getting there. We are improving our systems as we go along. But I'm pretty sure there is a long way to go. And with that, I'll take a small pause and I'll come back later.
And over to you, Nitin.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Nitin Chitkara, CEO, MMCM. We are a very young enterprise working around end-of-life vehicles waste management in India. So we believe that end-of-life vehicle is a really, really large problem going forward. India currently is third largest manufacturer as well as consumer of automotive. Monthly on month basis, we are producing around 2 million vehicles, and which would definitely grow because we anticipate that the country would be a developed nation by 2047. This number would definitely increase. The challenge is there is no way or no proper ecosystem to dismantle the vehicles which go out of life, right? So it's becoming a big problem. We see that vehicles are lying on the roads, landfills everywhere, and we believe that a solution is required there. So we are creating a tech ecosystem. The Dovu and Hedera are definitely working with us, giving us a wonderful system. And we believe that this problem would be solved not only by measurement, but we'd also need some carbon linkages to fund the scrapping facility, because we see there is a large value gap in the ecosystem which is required. So this is what to start with. Let's go further.
Great. So, I mean, a common thread here is data. Everyone needs good quality data and a lot of it for the different stakeholders to be making the appropriate decisions. Garelma and Nitin, probably a question for both of you. Are you seeing ways for project developers, smaller projects, stuff happening on the ground for that data to be collected in a better way? And then Archit, for you to talk about how you verify all of these new amounts of data coming in.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because government initiative for Mongolia, we're really moving forward, like digital Mongolia, like as a country, as a whole, every little aspect, different industries, we're moving towards that. And obviously AI is coming in very strong when it comes to climate data. And we understand that. And when we try to create a good carbon sequestration projects, obviously there are already degenerated areas, but which land or which part geographically actually creates the highest quality or the most, good credits? Where do we plant trees, or where do we just, mix swamps, or maybe, soil restorations? Like which project and which coordination, that was very important for us. And right now we utilize GIS and also remote sensing, and data quality is very important. That is why we're trying to, with the different, data inputs, and kind of check it with the historical, like climate occurrences, and then as well as the asset valuation, the land valuation itself. So some of my personal projects are doing that. We're creating that model, training the machine learnings, and unfortunately, some of the government data, it's not open to the public. And once you have an access, usually it needs to be up to date to create more efficient, actual good quality data into that model. So recently we are talking with the SpaceX and as well as the NASA to use, because SpaceX just entered Mongolia and they're launching several satellites, and perhaps that's one way of, you know, cross-checking the data, like how things are doing, and also climate towers and very like small, minuscule amount climate towers in the different regions, so you can continuously check almost 24 hours. So that is what's happening in Mongolia. Some initiatives, private and public partnerships are also happening, and that data protection regulatory side is also advancing. And most of the time, private sector starts new initiative and governments try to regulate it or stop it. And in this case, Mongolia understood we don't want to do that. We see that there is a need to regulate that. Some are sensitive data, like national security matters, or some personal data, etc. So we passed a law on data protection. So there are like different tiers of it, like who has access to what, but definitely the end goal is to have really good data, but not from one source, several different sources, cross-check, and continue feeding good quality data, create a good AI model on that, yeah.
So I'll talk from the project point of view, because we are doing a project. So on NF-Life vehicles, if you see that these vehicles are a very good source of materials, and today we know that material circularity is really important. A vehicle typically have steel, non-ferrous metals like copper, aluminium, and then plastics, and then definitely battery, it may be lithium, it may be normal batteries, and then rubber also. So when you talk about data, it's very important that what material is actually coming into the ecosystem and what material is getting recycled. So we need to use multiple technologies. First of all, that we need to ensure that yes, a vehicle is actually getting retired, scrapped in an environment-friendly way. So we definitely use multiple technologies. We have created an ecosystem and where we capture multiple data points. There are around 40 data points. We do the KYC of the vehicle, where we see that which vehicle, which OEM, which model, which year it was manufactured, and then definitely data points on what material is recovered, whether this material can be reused, not reused, weight of the material, and then the type of the material. Everything is captured. We use GIS, GPS, and then we are pushing it to the blockchain using Hedera, so that the data is available and it's available on a public ledger. So this is what we are trying to do, and creating ELV credits out of that, so that this data can be used for people, by maybe OEMs for maintaining their scope 3 emissions, because that's a very big challenge for auto OEMs. They do not know how to handle their scope 3. They do not know where their vehicle are going, where they're getting recycled, or whether they're getting recycled or not. Because in scope 3, we definitely need to know how the end use of vehicle or particular product is happening. So this would also help. So we are just trying to do, and we've created a wonderful system around that. So hopefully it would be used by all the OEMs going forward.
Very interesting, because the questions as an auditor that we need to ask is to the project developer, how did you collect the data? Where did the data come from? What is the sanctity of this data, the authenticity by that means? And then how did you process that data? Whether that algorithm that you deployed was proper or not, whether eventually resulting in the end calculations of the data and the way the data has been processed. So in all of this, we as auditors, we have to really dig deep into each of the elements and each of the touch points of data, whether the data has been tampered with or not, whether the algorithm has been tampered with or not. So if I'm supposed to say, Wes, if I'm auditing a project on the platform, then I'm probably going to rip apart the schema and the sub-schema of things till the point in time that I'm sure about it. And that's how I can give my assurance towards, yes, the data is proper, yes, it is credible enough, so that it can bring across a sense of confidence while being reviewed by the assessors at the registry's end as well. That yes, you can trace it, you can backtrack it, you can see whatever you want to see, how it is being processed, where did it come from, what is the authenticity of it, and that's how you can put a stamp of authority on it and then give out the issuance without attracting a lot of news articles and backtracking on whatever you have done in the past. So Our job is to ensure that whatever is coming to the table, how is it being processed and how it is being reviewed and submitted thereafter. It's all in line with the requirements of the standards, the methodologies, and each and every bit of it. So the sanctity and the dignity of the audit, both of the things go hand in hand, and that's how a robust audit gets concluded with respect to data.
Can I add
Yeah.
a little bit? So as we go, we kind of figured that all the great data, like how it should be translated, we touched upon like financing, right? So this side, we have all this data, wonderful like pool, and how we want to translate it into like assets that's packageable, understood by the investors or government. You know, different stakeholders have different languages in some ways to look at that data. So I think it's important to have that translation mechanisms that can package it, bundle it, and send it to the proper stakeholders so they understand.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a huge piece of it. It's all well and good collecting all of this data, but how is it translatable for the buyer? Have you seen, this is an open question to the panel, have you seen any good examples of how that data is surfaced in a way that buyers can understand and delve into the depths of PDDs and not spend hours scouring PDFs?
Well, there have not been many cases of this, but yes, the ideal system, if I have to call it, so it would be where everybody is speaking the same language, so that it makes each and every aspect of data being comprehensible easily, and there are not a lot of counter questions. Even if they are addressable to the easiest convenience, so that there could be a sense of confidence instilled in the overall ecosystem, right from the project developers and going on to these end beneficiaries and getting on with the buyers and with the standards and the registries. If all of them are speaking the same language, then it really makes a lot of sense, and it makes the lives of all the stakeholders much easier than before. And that is something which is missing, and I don't see that happening a lot.
As I mentioned that we are actually creating a really good tech platform with Dovu, and we'll suggest you go to that platform and try to see and give your inputs at whether this data is really usable or not, or fits to your requirements or not. So as I mentioned that all the 41 data points which we capture is actually available for the people. You can see it, where a vehicle came from, where it got recycled, what kind of project emissions was there, what kind of material was recovered. Each and every data is there. And then definitely the algorithm, the methodology algorithm is there. And this is the beauty of DMRV, what I'd say. So because the methodology has been digitized to a level where you can see that each and every definitely recovery of the material, or maybe the background of the material is there. But the calculations are also very clear that in a vehicle, as I mentioned, there are multiple materials. So the emission saving towards every material is calculated differently and is given in the database. So this is the beauty of DMRV, what I say. So we are using it, and then let's hope it would further, I want to see that multiple methodologies get digitized going forward. I actually work, for last 10 years I was working farmers of India, and I see that there is big problem with the farmers, because if anybody want to create a project, small farmers cannot create a project. They need to definitely go to a project developer, and then the quantum of money he gets out of the changes, it's very difficult, it's very costly affair. So with the adoption of technology, DMRV, open data networks, it would definitely become easy to access in some day to come.
Yeah, I was speaking to a project developer in Ghana who represents, I think, 100,000 hectares, and they were saying that they need the return to be high enough so that 60% can go back to the community, and then that 40% kind of becomes their cut. And they said that was a higher proportion compared to competitors who offer like 30% going back to the local communities, which is bleak. But, you know, these small amounts do make a big difference. One of the things we haven't touched upon is indigenous communities and how data is collected there. You know, the solution isn't always high tech. It's not always drones and remote sensing. How do you probably a question for you both, potentially for you, based on your kind of farmer experience. How do you weight that data collection differently?
I think we're still figuring that out. Even though like we are the OG decentralized country in the world, right? Because we're probably one of the last nomadic cultures left. And people usually graze and they have their winter, summer, different seasons. They go around, graze their livestock. And even though half the population is now residing, the urbanization is happening, many of the people, tribes still living in a very remote areas, and sometimes it's impossible to reach them physically. So I believe that some of the technologies that we have tried uses like mobile phones, like everybody, by the penetration of the mobile phone, Mongolia is like super high. Like some herders, they have maybe like 2, 3, because like different data providers. Like if one runs out, then they're gonna like switch and use the other ones. But they also use the satellite TV and like internets to stay connected with what's happening in the world. And they kind of like solved it on their own without much government or interventions. They're like, well, we need to contact with people and we need to send a message when we need help, right? And that's how they started. And I think utilizing that and probably a little bit decentralized stations around the country, because that is what it was from since like forever. We had little like stopping points for nomads, like going around and stop, get the supplies when they need it and trade with each other. So I think for me personally, it's very interesting model, like using the culture, their own like nomadic way of living, add a touch of a technology, and that seems to be very interesting, nice synergy coming out of there, like perhaps for the data collections and all that. But from the policy point of view, I think we're still figuring out what's the best way to move forward and what are the right technologies to use, because we don't want to hinder too much of the way they live, because how they live is essentially, they just want to continue the heritage, they want to continue the way of life, they balance with the nature and all that. And we don't want to change that too much. And something so beautiful about it is that people are willing to try out new technologies, and in the end, they are the end users. They usually let us know if it's working or not. And just staying in touch with that, being really, listening to their feedbacks, and working on that seems to help for us.
No, I think a leaf that I want to pull out from your keynote is that we, as auditors, we have understood that appreciating the cultural differences is a must for overcoming challenges with respect to data collection digitally.
It's not like cookie cutter.
Yes, one stick does not fit all. So, I mean, we have audited projects in Mongolia, we have audited projects in Turkey and in Rwanda and in Uganda. So what happens is that, especially during COVID times, when we were allowed to use alternate means of verification, so video calling, conference calling, all of that was the way to go, because otherwise you cannot go to the site physically and verify as to, yes, these many cook stoves have been distributed. Now, there have been very stark differences between the remote site visits that we did in Mongolia vis-a-vis the remote site visits that we did in Rwanda. People at times are not very comfortable getting on video calls with you, especially those households, those indigenous communities, because they're scared of it. They have an apprehension as to what are you going to do with my video. So there are ways to overcome that. There are ways to coach them, teach them, educate them enough that it's not harming you in any way. It's proper stakeholder consultation management, so to say. And with that, we can possibly overcome a lot of these challenges so that it makes the process a bit more smoother. Otherwise, we are getting back to the same old times where you have to go to the site each and every time, and other than that, there is no other option. if that is not done, then the process is not getting completed while meeting the requirements of the standards and the methodology. So that's you're backdating yourself like 7 years at least. So if we have come along such a long way in terms of digitization and in terms of stakeholder engagement, in terms of educating the indigenous communities, then this should also could be one more layer added on, which is not making too heavy for them so that they back out of it right from the word go. But the developers here sitting in the audience, I hope they would agree and appreciate that this is also something that they would like to inculcate in their stakeholder management so that the indigenous communities are at a better level of comfort so that the data sharing can happen more digitally and then more easily as well.
So for me, because we just started and India is the pilot use case, so we do not know where different geography challenges would be coming. But the good part is that many of the vehicle data is actually registered with the government. And in India, government actually is supporting at least for the validation of the vehicles. So that is an advantage for us. And as I mentioned that it's a very new program in India where the facilities are getting established now. So they are a little bit of tech savvy. We are not directly interacting with consumer as of now. So it's an easy way to at least validate the data and get into the actual solution actually for now. So this is what I can mention because currently we haven't faced that kind of challenge. But I believe that technology definitely play a really important role and an awareness. So that is what the baseline is.
For example, like digitizing the carbon credit makes the time that it hits the market, the secondary market circulation way faster, and that the fractionalization of it actually helps those local communities to have extra income. So otherwise they wouldn't have. It's basically they're protecting their land, regrowing the forest, and also getting extra amount of income that gives them economic empowerment. And some local communities actually, by preserving that land, restoring it, they have enough income that they could actually build local schools or add little bit of hospitals, etc. They make their own self-governing financial decisions rather than relying on the actual government budgets. So I think that also empowers the good governance of the municipal governments and increasing the stakeholder engagements of the local and indigenous people.
Yeah, I think definitely taking a tech-first Western approach is great, but the stakeholder consultation element is super important too. I'm going to open it up to questions. If anyone has questions, just for energy purposes, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Wes. So I work with Archit, just a quick introduction, and the question I have for you, Grelma. So 2 projects you mentioned in Mongolia, we did the audit, and incidentally I was part of one of the audit which we were doing in Mongolia. And that was the toughest audit I have ever faced in my life. And I'll let you know the reason why. Because it was hard to figure out the address. Because normally you have an address and you know the road, you know the block. It's easier to drive and to reach to that place. So, and now the question I have, with your experience, what do you think the technology is going to make it easier for me in a country like Mongolia? And the project was the heating systems for the people, like the nomads, which you mentioned, just moved into the city. And because I was not able to access the information properly, so we really had a hard time to take this project to the reasonable level of success, because the program and registries will ask me, how did you verify it? And I know it's a genuine project because it's changing the lives of thousands of people who would not have access to the heating when it's -10 or -20 degrees in the country. So how the technology is going to play a role, identification of the household with such distribution technology, that's A. Are there any initiatives by the government? Because I believe that it's even hard to figure out the address.
What 3 words?
We've grown up enough. Every city is not London.
Well, sorry that you had a hard time, but the more challenging it is, more satisfying it is to tackle the issue, right? And at least for our entrepreneurs like me, whenever I see an issue, I'm like, yay, more solutions. But yeah, so one case I can say that the government and public-private partnership has been taken is what 3 words. So we have been using that for those like address issues. And the city, the whole thing is like around 90s, the economy has changed, right? Like Mongolia embraced full democracy, and then a lot of like state-owned factories or like different remote areas kind of closed down, got privatized, and many people migrated to the city for seeking jobs and all that. But the city was made for about 500,000 people, but now we have what, 1.5, like 3 times of its capacity. And the whole like organization, the city, their urban planning was not there, and suddenly a flood of like people come in and started being nomads. They just like pick a land, set up their own like gear, and started, creating their own this little micro districts. So it was all that, okay, like let's go with it first, figure out later kind of attitude. Government was trying to figure themselves out, where we headed, what's going on, who are like, what is our priority. So all these like little things piled up, and in the end, we don't have like proper addressing system. And we're trying to fix it. So like lots of new city initiatives are coming in, like smart city initiatives, and the immediate like cases, like what 3 words. So I think it has been very helpful. People just use the hashtags that best describes their location and drop the pin and people can find. And also we have some tech solutions, like kind of like local mobility company, UB and they have been great mapping out the cities, like which is located where. So we've been using that data to pinpoint exactly, like creating the new map of the city and putting the new address issues, yeah.
Just for context for people who don't know what 3 words is, they've divided the whole planet into 3 by 3 meter squares, and they all have a unique identifying address with 3 unique words. Yeah. Svenja.
I have a question. Maybe there's no answer to the question, but it's provoking. So, looking at large-scale MRV and like ArchIT, in the case of Mongolia, I think it's always interesting how, especially MRV for nature-based solutions, the digital version of it, it appears so scalable, right? We have geospatial mapping, we have drones, we have all these solutions, but if you're actually out in the field and you are in an AR project and there's natural regeneration, you realize that for the first 2-3 years, digital MRV solutions have a very low degree of confidence. So that's okay. Like, I'm solution oriented. But how can we reframe that digital MRV and the tools that we have are sort of the holy grail for everything? And pragmatically, it looks different on the ground. And I think we need to remember that and try to reframe it into hybrid MRV. We have to have manual MRV on the ground, and you as a VVB, you're probably nodding and like smiling because it's so important, but Silicon Valley tells another story, that everything can be scaled, digital solutions can be there, and it's the same confidence. So what's your, especially in the case of Mongolia, it's a huge country. How can we sort of create a hybrid model to have higher confidence?
Yeah, we're fully aware. We're not like running with the crazy idea everything is gonna turn into digital haven. Like, even though we're going for like e-Mongolia and digital Mongolia initiatives, and it is a high priority for our government. Like 2050 vision is like everything going to be digitized in a way, but we are approaching to see each step and process. Like, some things don't need to be digitized. It's fine as it is. It works. So we understand that. We're practical. Like, we have made that mistake in the past, but especially when it comes to MRVs and nature-based solutions, we know that, because just we were discussing the culture is different. We have 21 provinces, every different landscapes and different solutions to be provided. So we understand. That's why we're doing a phasal kind of integrations. We get the basics done with the traditional methods, hands-on,
get the data in. And once everything is there organized, and then we slowly figure out, look at the blueprint, which parts need to be digitized, which part needs to use technology. Then we start integrating the right solutions step by step. And usually we doing it with the 3 phases: traditional, analyzing, picking up the digitization, reiterating. So that is our approach right now. At least that's what we are aiming to do. That's what we are putting into our policies and moving forward.
I have to answer that. So it will be a holy grail. That's one. 2, we do realize, we do acknowledge, and we do appreciate that each of the projects is very different. Even if we talk about just NBS, an ARR project can be very different, a RED project can be very different. So the technology that needs to be deployed also needs to be different. Simple. And third, the underlying statement for all of this would be that it is obviously work in progress for a lot of project types. So I was smiling because I'm not scared that the MRV is going to take away the job. No, because we are going to help each other together simultaneously. And the reason why I say that is because when you said that the level of accuracy in the first few years is very low, how are you going to improve that? Ground truthing. Who's going to do that? The VVB. It's fine, absolutely. And that's how the accuracy of the models gets improved over a period of time, and that's how it becomes the Holy Grail later on. It is work in progress. It will be called hybrid MRV, fine, because there is no perfect solution for each of the project types at one go. It will be work in progress. It will be hybrid to begin with, and then we go to perfection.
I also agree with you, absolutely. So innovation actually takes time to get adoption. So maybe initial 2 years, 3 years, it may be hybrid, but yes, for sure. And I also believe that a role of VVV would remain, at least for the validation and then data verifications as well, because now if you would be doing this altogether. This is required. This is very much required, because you would then be digitized. You would then be actually evaluating the data, whether data is coming right, whether data is coming from the right source. So maybe you would be digitized too. So this is what I believe.
There are various levels to it as well, because when the world is moving towards co-benefits and everything about the climate community and biodiversity and the SDG goals, so my simple question to you is that how are you going to validate that yes, there has been a school that was built as said by the project developer? You can definitely have a look at it from the remote sensing and the satellite imaging that yes, there is a structure that exists, but whether it's a school or a hospital or a toilet, you never know. And then, whether if it is a school, is there a qualified teacher imparting the right set of education to the students that are in the school? If it is a hospital, then is the doctor having the right set of qualification and degrees to hand out the prescriptions to the patients that are coming into the hospital? So all of that, yes, the digitization angle of things can solve a lot, but not all for now. So for that, there would be ground truthing that would be required, of course.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. And then AI is definitely AI. Today I know that somebody on the internet must be watching that where I am at this moment. He must be having the entire data passed of myself. So it's it's actually again it's a digitization. But I always believe that a level of manual intervention is always required. Sure.
Yeah, it definitely feels like augmented MRV rather than just full digital.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking about leapfrogging. The question here is, should we focus on leapfrogging the transformation from finding the MRV to current methodologies, or we should leapfrog in suggesting new complete methodologies built on technologies in a way that we can collaborate directly with the CEO of Vera or Gold Standard? In leapfrogging, from your experience, what would be easier?
Answer it well. You may take this question.
Why not both? I'm being put on the spot here a little bit, and I think this may be a good way to close out the panel in the sense that if you can't compare what we've done yesterday to what we're going to do tomorrow, the quality is going to be very difficult to prove. There's nothing wrong with what we've done yesterday to what we want to get to. And the more sensors we add to a project doesn't necessarily mean the higher quality. It just means the more digitalized it may be, or digital it may be. But there's a diminishing point of return in terms of digital tools. And so as we add to what we had yesterday, we can learn on how to iterate how we want to make it more efficient tomorrow. If we want to trust a cook stove, or trust a biodigester, or trust that the trees are being measured the appropriate way, that technology will evolve over time. The activities that we have, though, they have to match what we see from above in atmospheric monitoring. And making sure we close those gaps is extremely important. Earlier today, you asked about, can we, in arid scenarios, what's the environment? And maybe that's different in Egypt versus Mongolia. We use sensors and we use satellite monitoring to enhance what we have today. We can find the path forward tomorrow.
Thanks,
So
Wes.
with that, I just want to thank the panel. Everyone here is doing something very unique and interesting in different points around the world. And I thought, as I was watching the panels throughout today, I want to help just wrap things up. But I also want everyone to maybe go around the room, and I want to try something. If everyone can say where you're coming from as we wrap up today and what you're working on, just 2 or 3 words, I think it would be really important to help make some of these connections and take these conversations forward. And I want to impress upon a few points after that, but I want to quickly walk around the room. And first, I want to start, though, with Stan and ask everyone to give a round of applause to Stan Stolnecker and the Hub Culture team. They consistently, year after year, event after event, put on not just a fantastic show, but the best environment anyone could ask for. So Stan, if you could share what you're working on for a few minutes, for just a minute actually, and we could pass around the room, that would be fantastic. But please introduce maybe where a few of the members of the team are from as well.
Great, and definitely a big thank you to our amazing AV team, James and Flo and Antonio and Azur and Malcolm have come from around the world, from South Africa, from London and everywhere else. And I just want to say to you, Wes, and to Hanya and Jonathan and Serge, Hedera has been such an amazing partner over the last 4 years to work with. And, you know, it's often that we're working with people to create these spaces, but you guys have consistently been amazing to work with. And the thing I really love about it is that we've actually been able to build real stuff working with Hedera. It's a blockchain, a DLT technology. Of course, the mic, there goes the mic. It's really, really, of course the mic would happen when I'm on it. Anyway, so I'm gonna hand over, but again, thanks to our team. Real quick, I think the big news from this COP has been our launch yesterday in the Blue Zone of the new Ocean Climate Fund, which is a collaboration with the Green Climate Fund that we're working on to build a new global funding facility for adaptation, resilience, mitigation, and conservation for the world ocean. Last night, we actually had the Azeri Ministry of Economy here, and they asked us to issue them a one-pager on our request for a $10 billion commitment by the Azeris to oceans as part of the hoped for but not going well $500 billion commitment that they're hoping from this COP. So we actually issued that letter to the Azeris last night, and we're talking to others. So if you are out sort of gossiping around town, we're looking for 10 billion global commitment for oceans. That would be an amazing outcome. Yeah. And then we'll track that on Hedera.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Humberto. I'm a reporter with Dow Jones, with Opus. I focus on carbon compliance markets, but also biodiversity credits, and someone had a question on that earlier today. I think something I took from today's really interesting conversations was the technology that is used to quantify whether that's carbon removal or improvements in a site, but also I think someone made a point earlier today on having manual work in these project sites. And I think it's interesting to see how we can translate this to biodiversity credits and increase nature restoration projects. So it's really interesting to be in the carbon voluntary space and see what skills, talents, technologies can be used to also be part of this growing nascent market. So thank you for, very interesting discussions. Oh, from Mexico City, but based in London.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Hani Othman, I'm part of the HBAR Foundation. You've probably seen me before. So I'm from the Netherlands, so let's start with that. I'm currently in Portugal. What I've taken away mostly, and what I'm mostly excited about, is about all of the work that has been done within the carbon markets. And we're seeing that it's now taking up speed, and we're starting to understand a little bit more what technology can actually do in order to create high integrity markets. And you see it everywhere. Walking around in the blue zone, you see everybody talking about data. The UNDP is starting with their Nature ID project in terms of digital public infrastructure. That's the first time that I've ever heard that. So that's what I'm excited about, and leveraging that for the nature markets and seeing how we can build digitally native biodiversity and nature markets in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Ikia. I'm from Ghana. I'm with Up Energy Group. We're a project developer. We're into clean cooking, so charcoal cook stoves, electric pressure cooker, and also water filters. We're currently in 8 countries in Africa. I did say I'm from Ghana already, right? Great. What I'm excited about, thank you for putting this together, really amazing. What I'm excited about is for us to get to a point in the carbon space where everybody has confidence of our validation and we don't have a lot of questions coming up. For me, digitization is extremely key. So getting to that point where validations, there are no questions, we have confidence in it, is what I'm excited about. Thank you again.
Hi everyone, my name is Serge Medellin. I'm Ukrainian Australian living in the States. I represent Hashgraph and Hedera. And throughout the day today, I've heard a couple of keywords such as transparency, auditability, trust, digitization. And I just happen to work on a platform that solves a lot of these challenges that we've been talking today. It's called The Guardian. It's a digital MRV platform, open source, public goods. It features largest open source library of the methodologies out there. So I really encourage you guys to engage. For those of you who don't know what The Guardian is, we have a team who will be really happy to show you demos, who will be really happy to onboard you on the technical side of things as well as on the ecosystem side of things. And we would love to find ways to collaborate with you and solve some of these problems that we keep talking about year and year and year, and we finally have some solutions, and people are kind of getting more warmer for digital and solving some of the problems with technology. Not everything can be solved with technology, but at least some of the challenges can be addressed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amir Girgis. I'm from Egypt. I have a startup called Carboni Bank. It's a fintech trying to mobilize more green finance along the spectrum, whether it's carbon credits or green loans, into the local SMEs and startups. Right now, we're trying to work with the amazing guys from Hedera and the HBAR Foundation on building a renewable energy certificate registry based on blockchain for Egypt. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sapna Nijavan from India, and I'm the founder of Sustainium. So happy to be here in a room filled with people talking about digitization, and that's what we are doing at Sustainium. We are digitizing the project registration, project documentation, and finally calling it as an issuance platform. Connected with a repository, we feel that liquidity for buyers is a crunch in the market, having spot and forward delivery with the committed credits, and we are simplifying that through a digital repository connected with all the registries. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Eftal. I'm originally from Turkey, but I live in Dubai, UAE for a while now. I'm representing a startup that is based in UAE that is facilitating data collection, analysis, and reporting in carbon. And from the same platform, we can also facilitate our customers to get carbon credits. We are very carbon agnostic and looking for partners here at COP29, both for carbon credit side and for the digital side. We are partnered with Earthwood already. Yes, we are. And this is my day job, and after my day job, what I am doing is I have been in the ecosystem for a long while. I'm supporting climate technologies that are interested in coming in UAE and setting up there, connecting them with partners because climate action is in my blood and I really want to support. So anyone who is interested, I'm here.
Hi everyone, I'm Tarini. I am an impact advisor to venture capital funds and investors investing in nature and climate. And this is the second year I'm attending Hedera's forum, and I find this incredibly useful. And this provides the digital tools that are so essential across the ecosystem. And one thing that I really, really loved about today, the last session, was, the need for hybrid. So, everything cannot be done by digital. Digital is essential, but then we also need, the people on the ground doing all kinds of verification. And so that's really, really important. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Ananta Karthik. I'm I work along with Acquia. We are a project developer, have presence in Africa, in 8 countries in Africa. And we are basically a platform trying to develop any removal or reduction projects. Our current focus has been improved cook stove, including electric stoves, and safe water projects. Also looking into biochar and agroforestry. This topic is, of course, the need of the hour because, we really have to scale the market, and for the buyers to have confidence in the market, we have to bring in transparency, and it's really interesting, and that's what at Up Energy we are also trying to build more transparency in the system, and this is one of the interesting topic that we have been following for the last few years. Thank you.
My name is Gediskaya. I'm the managing partner and founder of Gaia Climate. We have been in the business of project development for 16 years now. Conventionally, we have developed more than 70 projects, verified 30 million tons of credits in multiple methodologies and traded them. And more than 100 organizations, including tech and airlines, have used our credits to offset their emissions. We have also a climate finance advisory side. We are giving advisory to public and private sector in mostly carbon pricing. Recently, we started developing our own platform for commodity traders so that they can actually offset their emissions through the platform. But we hope to connect it to our nature-based solutions projects. We have more than 10 projects in the pipeline to use the platform as an outlet to future finance those projects. This is pretty much who we are. We are not tech savvy, so we are open to all kinds of suggestions, and we are ready to cooperate with tech companies to advance our platform. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Raphael Dury, and I'm in charge of Olcott.io, which is a partnership with Olcott, a carbon project developer, and we're also a grantee of the HBAR Foundation, working on a platform that can help to streamline what is, for me, the most important word of the day, which is data. And after that, getting systems that can communicate to each other, which is like the work that the Guardian is putting in place. So one of the motto of Hedera, I think, is Hello Future. So yeah, I'm looking forward for tomorrow. Thank you. And I'm Swiss, but I'm based in London.
Hi everybody, my name is Joost. I work at ACT. I'm actually from Amsterdam. For the people who don't know ACT, we're actually one of the largest environmental solutions providers in the world. We have a global footprint. I lead all the M&A investments and partnerships with ACT. So we're always looking for interesting, exciting companies, like many of the people representing their companies here, to look for partnerships and investments. So nice to meet you.
Hi, this is Maitreyi Kamble. I am from India and I am the founder of a Sanitech company in India. We work in liquid waste management and we are mechanizing and digitalizing sewage waste in India right now. I am representing another organization. It's a business chamber called Dalit Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries. We work with the marginalized communities in India and creating policy platforms and bridging gap and capacity building for the SC/ST communities. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Yashodhan Ramteke. I work with Nitin in MMCM. We have been in the ecosystem since past 2 years. We work very closely with HBAR and Dovu. We are trying to incentivize recycling in India. We work very closely in circular economy. I'm very happy to tell you that for the first batch of the recyclers, we were able to incentivize last month, and this was a very good thing which Dovu and HBAR helped us achieve with this incentivization, because this is a big problem for a country like India. The Indian government is also very happy about the way we are doing, and they are also wanting to engage more on the digital side of traceability, because we have started with one use case of ELVs, but then we are looking at all use cases like other waste streams as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina. I'm Bulgarian that technically lives in London, trying to move into Dubai, so definitely need some tip advices from you on that front. I'm one of the founders of Dovu. We are really happy to have been, as Wes mentioned, the first grantee of the Impact Sustainable Fund. We use technology, we use AI to, as I went on a tangent today, break the barriers into voluntary carbon markets and ensure that we connect all respective stakeholders in the area in a very seamless and speedy and hopefully cost-effective way. One thing, by the way, I've been going through a very emotional journey since the beginning of this COP. I've been angry at nothing happening. I've been pressed at things happening. I've been inspired and excited about various things that small and big companies are doing. And I've listened to a talk earlier about where do you see COP40 happening? And since then I've been thinking, where do I personally see COP40 happening? And I think that should be virtually, and we should be just enjoying ourselves, having drinks, and having achieved what all of us are here gathered to do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Prakash. I'm from India. I work for a project development company on NBS, basically doing afforestation. The ambition is to do 30,000 hectares in Rajasthan. Interestingly, I have 3 decades of IT background or technology. I worked in Sky, Microsoft. I built a smart water controller. I left everything and went back to India to retire. And anyway, thanks to my wife, I joined this company 6 months ago and very clearly said, I'm not going to do technology. I want to work with the farmers, buying manure and things like that, which is pretty interesting. But unfortunately, when I come here, we're just talking about technology, right? And we're talking about integrity and the trust. Then what I find is, or found still is, the ground truthing, right? There's a lot of challenges there. Today, when I talk to labor,
They just have what's called as a dial pad phone. And every day we're calling them, okay, kitne paude hain? How many trees are there? How do I do the counting? And then we have a Kobo form, open source, enter it, and things like that. So, and I personally feel there's a huge reality, even if whatever we do in terms of tokenization, there's a huge difference on the ground. Even like just for example, we're trying to do some watering now. When the tanker comes in, it's only 3/4. So I need somebody to go up, check how much of water is there, put in a stick to see that before he plants. Because in my calculation, it's a 5,000 liter of tanker, and I need to plant 5 liters of water per plant. So that means 1,000, but I only end up doing 300. So there's a leakage there, right? It is phenomenal in terms of the difference itself. And I hope, again, I'm not sure if the technology will bridge that. I thought I'll move away from technology, but somehow I've been kind of pulled back into technology. Thanks.
Hello everyone. My name is Omar, and this is my partner Adil. We're both representing Sri Lanka in Party Overflow, and we're leading negotiations in Article 6. So we're primarily concerned in Article 6.2 because it's not standardized as much. So we are primarily in the energy transition industry. We're not focusing on anything else because that's a lot of gray area. In energy, what you see is what you get. So other than that, we are a private-public partnership with the government of Sri Lanka. And we have this product called the Substrate, which enables real-time monitoring for the energy grid. Apart from that, we are focused on the question of Bitcoin and the threat it has to the climate, especially in terms of its significance right now. And in terms of Bitcoin, we can't use the traditional methods of the carbon credit market to solve the problem of Bitcoin, so it kind of forces us to rethink our strategies. So we developed this new novel pricing mechanism called proof of harm, which are essentially zero coupon treasury bonds and climate science. So I would like to get that into detail, but I don't have time. So I'll pass the mic to...
Hi everyone, like Oma mentioned, Adil Marika from Sri Lanka. Apart from this, we are also a renewable energy developer with projects in Zambia, Sri Lanka, and Malawi as well. So we recently launched a pilot for one of our smaller projects, a DMRV pilot, where we do all the tracking and the data on Hedera mainnet. Thank you.
Last but not least, one more person. Hi everyone, I'm Svenja Telly, CEO of Denominator Collective. We are addressing financial barriers to scaling climate technologies. At the end of the day, if there is no money, big checks, lower interest rates, we won't scale any of what we're talking about. So we are using digital tools and data management and analytics to connect projects with financiers and insurers in order to bridge the gap between VC money and project finance. I'm German, but I live in Hawaii.
So it's 5:30, you must be glad I'm the last one to introduce. So I'm Kavi, we are the validation verification body, doing this all my life, and my current responsibility, obviously it's my target for next 2 years that we are digitalizing the validation verification process so that I can live with my kids, see them grow, and technology is doing the job for me. I'm from India, my family is in the UK, but most of the time I'm at the airport, client side, or traveling, or going to Mongolia or other countries. Thank you very much.
So I want to just wrap things up. I think y'all heard, we're from all around the world, very much like the COP. We're building a lot of different things, going from nature-based solutions, energy transition. This morning we talked about greenhouse gas accounting, the regulations being developed under CSRD, Scope 3. We even had the author of some of the legislation here around Scope 3 in California. We come from all different sectors, but we're collaborating together to get to an outcome. And we've heard a theme throughout the day around this digitalization. And we started the day talking about bringing the balance sheet of the planet to the public ledger. And at the HBAR Foundation, we're really excited to be able to support that across our 5 goals with many of our grantees, but many users of our open source technology. And what we've created is this ecosystem of open source digital public goods. And we're really excited about being able to continue to do that. But I want to also impress a point that we can't do that without everyone here. We build a roadmap every 6 months to answer the needs of folks like yourselves in this room, with many of you in this room. We don't have all the answers today. We need you to help us determine what's needed to uncover what the next challenges are that we need to unblock. We need to make sure that we hear from not just the folks who are doing things fully digitally, but thinking about, well, maybe folks without addresses, how do we uncover some of those issues? How do we think about the different contexts from nature-based solutions to technology-based solutions or greenhouse gas accounting? And it needs to work for the auditors, the lawyers, the governments, the investors, the project developers, and all their communities. And I didn't cover everyone else that we could add into that process. And so yesterday we announced that we got to our third version, version 3.0 of the Hedera Guardian. It's a security audited version, making it easier to adopt in enterprise. We announced $450,000 of funding for developers for open source methodologies, 50 over the next 2 years from Exponential Science Foundation. I want to give them a big, I know they're not here, but give them a big round of applause for making this commitment. That commitment allows us to develop capacity, build capacity in communities. That same type of funding has built capacity in places that we never knew that we would touch before. It's opportunities for folks to enter our ecosystem as individuals that can develop into roles and opportunities, and we encourage you to share that news with academia, universities, or someone who's looking to get started. We also announced $200,000 over the next 2 years of bug bounty, community bounties for proposing features for the Guardian, for fixing issues in the Guardian to help incentivize that community. I know that may just sound like a drop in the bucket where we're talking about billions or trillions or very large numbers for climate finance, but in our little part of the world, in our little part of the solution in these digital tools, we want to build a community where everyone can participate, down to the 2-acre farmer, like Dovu's working on, or the person who's working at a corporation doing greenhouse gas accounting or figuring out which carbon credits or where they can participate in climate finance. And so my ask coming out of this session and after going around the room is find someone who you can work with. Come talk to Serge, Anya, Jonathan about how to get involved in the community. Talk to someone else who says, hey, I use the Hedera Guardian, that you may not have even known who does before this session. And as we walk away from this, this COP or walk into the blue zone tomorrow, think about how we can take these digital tools forward. Maybe even think about what that looks like in the negotiation where somebody doesn't know that we don't have to use PDFs or Excel sheets. And we don't have to take a picture or use an AI to scan the PDF to undo the last 20 years of PDF debt. Think about how we can bring the balance sheet of the planet to the public ledger. And with that, I'm not going to be in the way of drinks anymore, but I just want to say one round of applause for everyone here, especially the HBAR Foundation team, and thank you all. Have a great rest of the night.